says, but I'm going to just focus on his passion as a student, what he has learned. Born and raised in Philadelphia, and he has a PhD from Berkeley. But his specialty right now, he teaches the Hadith science and Islamic jurisprudence as Zaytuna. But one thing which stood out for me personally was that he had a bachelor's degree from the University of Korean. I've been trying to practice this all day. I've lectured and taught a lot of students, and I talk about this particular university. And today, for the first time, I'm going to graduate. This is a personal, special day for me. This university was, according to UNESCO and Guinness Book of World Record, is the oldest functioning university in the world today. Established in 859, and it produced leading giants, both Muslim and non-Muslim. One of them, Ibn Khaldun, I've read one of his translation of Muqaddimah. Ibn al-Arabi, Maimonides, who's a very famous Jewish legal expert who wrote Talmud. And including a Pope, Sylvester II, Pope was also educated from this university. Dutch Glorious, and Muhammad al-Idrisi, who did the first charting of world geography of maps, which were used later by Columbus to come to America. So this is an amazing place, and our Sheikh did his ijaza and his education from there. So we are very humble and happy to have him here. Inshallah, in the next today there will be one session, and tomorrow there will be three sessions. And please be attentive, and we'll follow our curriculum, and hopefully we will learn a lot from our Sheikh. Thank you again.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah, Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Allahumma ftah alayna min al-arifin, wa wafiqna tawfiq as-salihin, wa ta'ala wa ta'ala al-Qur'an al-Hakim. Allahumma alimna bil ma'na, wa ta'ala ma anzalna al-ilma, wa 'allamna taqabbala bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I'd like to first begin by expressing my gratitude to those of you here at the Khadija Center for inviting not only myself but Zaytuna College in general to allow us into your very private space, in your brains, your minds, in your hearts, inshallah. In this beautiful masjid, beautiful community that I've been, brothers of mine has been educating me about since I have arrived, and I'm very much impressed, and in some ways envious of the health of what I see, what appears to be a very healthy community. Also, kind of making it a very diverse community that grants you good relationships with your neighbors, and also being in this particular state under people who are committed to religion as well. that you should be in a place where you don't necessarily feel the pressures that many people feel in the country right now because of a lot of the things that we see happening, especially in relationship to the elections. Um, so I'm very grateful and honored to be here today. Alhamdulillah, I'm a graduate of Harvard University, but naturally I don't believe that I compare to some of the great people that Zaytuna mentioned. Perhaps one day, maybe I will be able to reflect a part of their life. But we hope that at any rate that whatever benefit, potential benefit that I'm a part of that is something that will make you feel that this was not a wasted or a wasted, I can say, wait after the moment of Salah. Today, the task is to speak about this book called Agenda to Change Our Condition. So today and tomorrow as well, we have more time tomorrow to discuss different parts of the book. Just to give you a little bit of background on the book, this is a small book which was originally written in 1999. 1999, of course, is before 9/11. And at that particular time, the concerns of the community and the grievances of the community generally were different than what they are today, as we know. Perhaps one of the most significant grievances that the international Muslim community had was against the West and the Western powers and their wars in Muslim lands, but also their ideological assaults on the Islamic tradition, which itself did not begin in the 20th century, as we know. 9/11 happened, and we know that a lot of things have changed. One thing in particular which has changed is Muslim attitudes about our membership in Western nations. I grew up Muslim, and I witnessed quite a bit, and I remember how there was this never-ending conversation about whether or not you could be both a Muslim and an American. Even Muslims not participating in elections, not participating in public office. It was even difficult for many Muslims, a significant number of Muslims around the country, to even entertain the idea or to come out publicly to say that America is a legitimate country. Of course, as we know, this is not everybody, but it was significant, much more significant number. Even to the extent that certain Muslims who would come out publicly and declare their Americanness and their inability to see a connection between being American and Muslim were castigated at times. Some of our Muslim leaders who have passed away was the case, but now so many of us wave the flag. Not that it's completely problematic, but just to understand that when this book was written, it was written during this particular time, and though there were political concerns, the more significant concern of this particular book was the Muslim spiritual health, the Muslim educational health, because one of the things that the authors, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf and Imam Zayd Shakir, both they emphasize in this particular work is the importance of controlling or trying to improve those aspects of one's life which are, one is able or has mastery over, or potentially has mastery over. We can't always change what's happening outside of ourselves. we can try to have an impact on society, but we have to couple that with a more significant focus on overcoming our own vices, gaining mastery over ourselves. And so this is why the book, you can say, you can summarize it as a book about achieving taqwa, achieving God consciousness, achieving fear of Allah, a book about reinforcing our duty or remaining dutiful to God. All those things all at the same time. Before diving into the book, I actually wanted to speak about what I would say is what I come to believe and understand to be the human story, the human narrative, the narrative of man, the narrative of the human family. And this particular narrative is a narrative of a servant placed in a garden of bliss and later estranged from his master. And of course, we can say her master as well, because it was both Adam and Eve, alayhi salam, estranged from their master because of a violation that they committed. And because of that violation, they were expelled onto this realm, away from their home, because Jannah is our original home, believe it or not. Expelled and estranged and placed in a distance from their home and given a task to redeem themselves through managing this realm, proving their worthiness to return to a home even better than they left. This is fundamentally what our story is. And Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and when your Lord, remember when your Lord said to the angels, I am placing within the earth a Khalifa. I am placing within the earth a Khalifa. The Khalifa is God's vicegerent, but more specifically, the Khalifa is a steward of this particular realm. That the human being has been given a power that no other creature on the world or on this planet has been given. The human being has the capacity to destroy all life on this particular planet. But the human being also is the only one with the capacity to save all life on this planet. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed a heavy burden on the human being. But Allah leave us without direction, leave us without the tools to prepare us to do that. And we know how much of a failure we've been overall up to this point. But this is fundamentally what the guidance of the messengers is all about, is to give us the tools to make it possible for us. Because when we continue the story, the angels, they respond, are you going to place in this realm one who's going to spread corruption and share love, while we continue to glorify you with praise and sanctify you? Allah responded, I know what you don't know. There's something I know you don't know. Now the angels, we can say, fundamentally, when they looked upon the human being, they looked at the animalistic nature of this creature. The very fact that the human being has an appetite. And that appetite can be led into excess. An individual can become ruled by his or her appetite. And they say, well, if this is the state of the human being, which was prominent to the angels and all of what they could see, then there's no way possible that the human being will be able to be the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no way possible, we don't see it. And they saw nothing but the potential to spread corruption and to shed blood. So why would you make someone who can do that the Khalifa? Allah said, "Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun." I know something. I know what you don't know. I know what you don't know. But then Allah continues and says, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. And Allah taught Adam all the names of all creatures, the name of ثم عرضهم على الملائكة. And then He presented them to the angels. قال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين. Inform me of these things if you're truthful, right, about your assumptions about this creature. Their response, as humble servants as they were, قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا. Glory to you. We have no knowledge except for what you have given us. إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. You are the all-knowing, the all-wise. And it doesn't say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He knew that the angels did not know is that while the human being has this animalistic characteristic, this animalistic traits, but it also has rational traits. The human being has this rational trait, and with the rational trait, the human being is able to gain mastery over the animalistic, the bestial instinct within him or herself. This is what the human being is able to do. Just the human being has to learn. The human being has to struggle. As a matter of fact, one of the things that Imam Ghazali says about the human being is that one of the unique characteristics of the human being is the characteristic of sabr, of patience, of endurance, of restraint. It's a unique human characteristic. Because if we put the angels at one end, and we say that the angels are pure, they're rational creatures, they don't have appetite. And at the other end, we put the lower animals, right, who have nothing, really, they're dominated by their appetites. They're ruled by their appetites. The human being is the only of those three who actually has the potential for rationality and also for bestiality, but at the same time resists the urge to act like the animal, and actually pursues, or at least should pursue, rational, the intellectual goals which will enhance the person. So this is fundamentally what we're dealing with Iqbal al-Amin. So anyway, so all of our lives, what we're doing is attempting to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the words for returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is tawbah. Tawbah. Repentance. Repentance. As a matter of fact, the three main words in the Arabic language that in the Quran which are utilized to mean repentance, Tawbah, Tawbah, and Inaba, all of them originate from a verb which means to return. It means to return. Returning where? To the state of innocence once endured. Returning physically to our Lord. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Verily we belong to God. There's no doubt that to God we are returning. Physically we will return, but we want to return in our hearts even before we physically return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the path of the believer, is the path of Tawbah. And upon the path of Tawbah, the ultimate goal is to achieve what we call at-taqwa. Achieve what we call at-taqwa, God consciousness, a type of consciousness that makes it difficult for us to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or at least it makes us uneasy about disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it also encourages us to do good, and in some cases, in many cases, for it to be easy for us to do good and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. That whoever gives and is conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and affirms the truthfulness of Jannah, that it is real, then we will make it easy for them to achieve that which is most easy. That is the paradise. وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْعُسْرَى. And whoever rejects faith and the hereafter. While my brother is stingy and sees himself as self-sufficient and rejects facing the hereafter, then we will make it easy for that person to reach that which is most difficult, which is hell. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches. And as we say that human being goes through phases. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about the human being, he talks about the human being as being brought out of darknesses into the light. يُخْرِجُهُمْ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. That Allah, He is wali, He is the ally of those who believe. He brings them out of darknesses into the light. The light is one, but darknesses are many. Which means even as a Muslim, I can still be in darkness. And then when I am able to uncover or remove one veil of darkness, I still can be in darkness. And then I can remove that veil of darkness, and then I'm still in darkness. Right? So without Allah's help, we will remain in darkness. But the hope is that if we move in the direction of our hearts, move in the direction towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will move towards us. مَنْ أَتَانِي يَمْشِي أَتَيْتُهُ هَوَّاءً. Whoever comes to me, right, walking, or the fast, walking, I come to him running. For is a rough translation. So we find these teachings in our religion. So fundamentally, this book is about that, about self-rectification. It's about the path of achieving consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But also it's about doing some practical things in our daily lives that will help us to be successful, even in the mundane. That the Quran tells us that we're created to serve God. Service is of two types. One type of service is direct service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we call worship and ibadah. But there's another type of service which is mediated through our support and assistance and aid that we give to the creation, which we call khidmah. And this is why in the Quran Allah speaks about this ummah being the best community brought out for humanity. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. He says, تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. That you enjoy what is good, you forbid what is wrong, and you believe in Allah. So he didn't limit it to believe in Allah. If anything, he didn't put believe in Allah first. He put it at the end. Because if what truly distinguishes this ummah is it's the ummah of khidmah, ummah of service to humanity. This is why we're here on this planet, to serve humanity through service of yourself and worship of the Lord, and by rectifying the soul to make you fit to be this Khalifa that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about in His book. So, just to introduce the topic from the book, we all know, for those who have the book, the first page, Islam's submission to what is real. It is a recognition and an acceptance of the way things really are, and not as they appear. Everything is in submission to Allah, who is the real and haq. Only human beings and little spirits can rebel against our Creator. Over 1,400 years ago, this path of Islam was renewed to mark the entry into the last phase of human experience on earth. It was renewed by the message of creation, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as the final prophet and the seal of all of Allah's prophets, upon them all be peace. He was his greatest wayfarer, and he never deviated from his course. His blessed footprints remain clear and unchanged for anyone desiring to set out on that ancient prophetic path. So, this path of Islam was renewed to mark the entry into the last phase of human experience on earth. That we have been given the great blessing of being part of the ummah of the greatest prophet, It was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, received the final message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which has been preserved in its original form since the very beginning. And he was our temple. Allah sent various shara, various moral codes, and he would change the rules that we know as he saw fit. Sometimes in certain centuries, the thing might be haram, and then later on, Allah said halal with the next sharia. And that happened since the beginning until finally Muhammad ﷺ, he was given this, and he was also given today I've perfected for you your religion. وَأَسْلَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي, and I have completed my favor upon you, and I have chosen Islam for you as deen, as religion. So, which means that this marks the end of direct communication between Allah and the creation. This is what it meant. No more direct communication. Right? There's indirect communication, or there's communication in a way where we're not completely certain of who is communicating to us. Right? You have dreams or visions sometimes, or is it from Allah? Is it from Shaitan? Is it from the angels? You don't know. Is it from my anxieties? Right? It's hard to know at times. Right? But it marks the end of that particular period. It's an important thing to reflect upon as people living in these times. But the very first command that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives is all humanity worship your Lord who created you and those who came before you. For what reason? So that you become people of taqwa. So that you become conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one way you can look at this is that, or an important question that asks is, what's worse, for a person to do a bad deed, or for a person to want to do a bad deed? And what do you think? Anybody, what do you think? Is it worse to do a bad deed, or to want to do a bad deed? To want to do a bad deed. Why? It's your intention, right? Your intention. But what if I resist it? I resist that intention. I never do it. Is Allah going to punish me for that? No. Not going to punish me for it. Okay. But what if I never change my intention? I just had a failed attempt. Like, for instance, I want to go steal a car. I decided to go outside and break into a car and try. I can't get in. I'll try again tomorrow, walk away. I walk out, I get hit by a car. I get hit by a car, I die. Do you believe that you will be resurrected and Allah will punish you for that? You say yes, right? And what's the difference between that and the case when I get it, I want to do bad and I resist it? You want to say something? Want to answer? Yeah. So it's because you return. You didn't return. You didn't do total. Right? You didn't return to your fitrah. Right? That you went with the urge. You went with wrong and you decided, I'm going to do it anyway. I can't do it today. Just feel attempt. And so this is actually what is meant, according to many of the Mufassirin, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ وَإِن تُخْفُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ وَتُبْدُوهُ يُحَاسِبْكُم بِاللَّهِ. If you conceal what is in your heart or you reveal it, Allah will bring you to account for it. He will reckon you for it. He will reckon you for it. Meaning that if you resolve, once you resolve, I'm going to do it, and then something happens to prevent you from doing it, and you never make total from that particular decision, you never feel guilty about it, knowing full well, right, it was wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will resurrect you and He will reckon you for it. But if you fight that urge, you push back, Allah will reckon you for that. They call it hamd, they call it the urge. You get an urge, something bad, do it. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this, is that I can do a bad deed out of weakness. We all be weak. We all be weak. But if I want to do a bad deed, just can't do it, that's even worse. This is the difference between what we call sin and vice. The sin is, again, I just gotta do it. A moment of weakness. Anybody in a moment of weakness, in a fit of anger, can do something, or say something, right? It's wrong. It's inappropriate. But when I'm just looking for the opportunity to do it, then that's pretty bad. I'm a wicked person. I'm a vicious person. This is why rapists are dealt with differently than other types of people who commit crimes. Because pedophiles and rapists is different. It's like, they're just waiting for the opportunity to do it again. They have to be pure of those urges. They've lost control of their appetites. Right? So they're a different type of criminal. Right? Even after they go to prison and get out, still keeping our eyes on the life because it's vice, it's vicious. They want to do evil. Right? Many of them. Even they just don't have the opportunity to do so. So Allah created us so that we become people of taqwa. He wants us to worship Him to become people of taqwa. So even as a believer, the Quran is Hudal Muttaqin, is a guide for the people of taqwa. Right? It's also Hudal Nas, it's also guide for humanity. But it's definitely guide for the people of taqwa. And it's meant to be guide for all humanity. But that we send down from the Quran what is a mercy, a cure and mercy for the believers. But it only increases the wrongdoers in ruin. It only increases the wrongdoers in ruin. This is like the word increase them in ruin if their hearts are not right. But it's shifa for the believers, right? Which tells you about the believers too, that the believers themselves can still be, you understand? If I'm already complete, why do I need Shiva? Why do I need cure? If I'm already cured, I'm already complete. But Allah, this is a Shiva for the believers. Right, so the very first command that we find in Surah Al-Baqarah is that one, worship God, who created you and those who came before you, in order that you become people of taqwa. And the very first prohibition is فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And do not set up false deities beside God, beside Allah. You are aware of what you're doing. Why you are aware of what you do. So shirk, right? Tawheed, shirk. Allah commands tawheed, He forbids shirk, idolatry. But our shirk can take many forms, idolatry can take many forms. One of the worst type of idolatry is self-worship. Worship of the self, worship of the appetite. Have we not seen the one who's taken his lust or her lust as his God? Right? And Allah led them astray, He left them because of that. So we have a reason for being misled. Right. So when Allah will start you on your track. But look at it like this. This is a sort of a parable or sort of an analogy that I like to make when it comes to the issue of Jannah and the Nar. Now, if we imagine heaven is like a planet, and hell is like a planet, and we see ourselves between the two, like this out there in outer space, that we're flowing there between the two of them. And we have a propulsion device, right? Well, as well. But the road doesn't work unless we use the right fuel, naturally. So our obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when I do an act of obedience, but it doesn't propel me in the direction of Jannah. And when I commit an act of disobedience, it propels me in the opposite direction. But depending on how much of either type of deed I do, once I get so close to Jannah or to the Nar, what happens is that I get caught up in this gravitational pull, right? I try to pull myself out I can, right? And that's literally the way it works, is that even as a person, even when I want to do something bad, I can't do it because Allah protects me. Because I'm caught into the gravitational pull of Jannah. And if I want to do something good, once I'm cursed, I can't because I'm caught in the gravitational pull of the hellfire. But the person responsible for that is ourselves. Yeah, Allah has the rules, right? The physics and the metaphysics of it all, right? But I'm responsible for it. You understand? It's my intention, it was my choice, it's what I resolve to do. I resolve to do these things. And so talk about fundamentals is about giving us, trying to help us feeling the urge to do good things, even when we don't have the opportunity to do so. This is why if I say within myself, and I make an intention in my heart that if I win this scholarship, or I win this grant, right? I'm going to take all that money. Let's say it's $1 million, right? Not the lottery, like something like that. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to give it in charity. That's my need. I may lose. I might not win because there's a lot of competition. I will get it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will resurrect me as someone who gave $1 million. So this is why there's a hadith. This hadith that says, Niyatul mu'min khayran min amalihi, that the intention of the believer is better than his work. The intention of the believer is hadith sahih. The intention of the believer is better than his work. Because if you do an act of good, it's more risky. It's actually more risky than actually just simply having the intention to do something good. Because if once I start to do it, then it's like I'm thinking about who's watching me, thinking about, you know what I'm saying? Especially if you talk about somebody who, like, this is something that's common amongst people who like recite Quran, lead the salat and things like that. If they're good reciters, it's like, yeah, I sound good. Yeah, I like the way I sound today. I'm pretty sure they like the way I sound as well, right? And of course, in the beginning, it's hard to block out the idea that you're kind of doing this both for Allah and for the people, right? And actually, in the area of suluk, of behavioral science, and what we call tazkiyah, the purification of the soul, the scholars say that the very last fight to leave the heart of the seeker is the love of status. It's the hardest thing to overcome. All of us like status. We want to be kind of like, like for instance, the news walks in, they interview you. It's all going to be news now. I mean, all of us, at one level, we like that, to be showcased in some way. Right? Deep down, I mean, all of us, we know that there's something there, but we fight it off. It's hard, it's one of the hardest things to overcome. Right? So when I do a good deed, which is supposed to be sincerely, solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes it's adulterated, it's polluted by other people who are looking, they're observing, they're listening, right? But if I just simply have the intention, that's just between me and Allah. Nobody knows me and Allah, right? That's my niyyah, right? That's why fasting is such an important exercise, spiritual exercise. while the law rewards the fasting, but it doesn't reward for other types of deeds. And because no one truly knows you're fasting except for you and Allah. If you go and steal a bite of a sandwich or, take a glass of water, you can hide from the people who can't hide from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on page 2, when he talks about our current state, this is what they say. Now the current state of the people of this ancient path. Now the current state of the people of this ancient path is the plural. Generally speaking, there are powers, the rabbits, morally bankrupts, objects of history rather than subjects of history, as were our pious predecessors who engaged the world with the power of truth and dispelled darkness with their spiritual life. Now, of course, it's not very depressing. I mean, so many of us may not even agree with that. I don't feel that's the state of the moment. There's some reason, valid contention for that. But, again, the book written in the context of Muslims being colonized, Muslims being, held back or they're behind in terms of technology and other things. And most importantly, Muslims are behind because of our abandonment of our own morality. Right? This is largely what we're referring to. So it says, our condition is far from that of our forebears. It is as if we died or even heard the prayer of our prophet, which he recited every morning. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hamdi wal-hasan wal-'azmi wal-kasal wal-jubni wal-bukhl wa-dha'i ad-din wa ghalabati al-rijal. Allah is in refuge in you from grief and anxiety, impotence and indolence, cowardice and mindlessness, and from being overcome by death and overpowered by men. At any rate, I think we can say that one of the fundamental points is that not only in physical, material causation, but even metaphysical causation. And I think this is something that's unfortunately affecting the minds of a lot of Muslims today. The more we become secular, the more we want to adapt to secular existence, is that we are losing touch with what is unique about being a Muslim, about being a believer. One of the things I was trying to allude to earlier during the khutbah is that we find Muslims supporting efforts to liberalize our morality. Right? We find Muslims who are fine with the idea of even giving up the attempts to inject an Islamic solution into society as well. So what I mean by that is, if I'm involved politically, if I'm involved locally, in any fashion in society, and we say, you know what, we live in a secular society, not a Muslim society, and they're not going to accept any Muslim suggestions, any suggestions that originate in Islam. If that's my attitude, then what's the point of me being involved? Right? And a secular society is supposed to be open to any type of solution. Right? We don't have to say it's a religious solution, but it may originate in religion. So many other things originate in religion. Secular society cannot operate without some type of religious foundation, some foundation of morality. I mean, where does that morality come from? You see, but you find a lot of Muslims, the idea is that we're going to integrate in that space. They're going to dictate the terms, and we're just going to help. And we're not going to offer any alternative ways of thinking about this situation. But Muslims should be proud of who they are and what they have. Right, so atheism is an issue amongst a lot of youth. Unfortunately, that many of our youth are being converted on the college campuses, and I think part of that is and I was having this conversation earlier today, part of this is because parents sometimes fail their children. And failing the children, I don't mean just simply by not teaching them Islam or ensuring that they have an Islamic education. And I also don't mean simply because we may be sending two different messages to our children. That we be Muslim one way at home and another way beyond society. It is well that we find Muslim parents themselves backsliding Muslims. And sometimes, and I know this is real because I actually had a number of experiences with youth who actually want to be good Muslims, and their parents don't want them to be good Muslims. Right? Or at least what they imagine would be a good Muslim. Right? Oh, you want to wear a hijab? Why? Why do I do that? Oh, no, what I do everyone. Go get a boyfriend. Go have fun. Go get a girlfriend. There are some parents who listen, it's real. I mean, some of you probably know some of this as well. It is real. So you have students, a lot of these young Muslims who come from that type of background, and they go to the university campus. And then the first time they have to hear something from an Islamic worldview, they find it strange. It's like, what? What are you talking about? Because the only way that they know how to frame anything is based upon secular assumptions, secular liberal assumptions. Right? That's the way they judge the world. It's like everybody else. We're just Americans. Why are you even say Muslim America? There's Muslims out there who say that. He's like, why do you make these distinctions? I'm just an American. We're all just Americans. I've heard the mouths of Muslims say that. So confusion is caused. A lot of confusion can come. We believe in, again, there are things that are very unique about being Muslim. We believe in we believe in Allah. To begin with, I mean, I can't prove God's existence empirically. I can't do it. I can't with the five senses. I can't do it. Because if I can prove God's existence, I can say, oh, there he is. Look at him. He's real. Look. I told you. Right? I can't do that. But I believe. And I know in my heart. And with my mind, God is real. Right? It's something we believe in. Some people are like, well, you can't prove it. Then it's not real. If we can't prove it objectively, it's not real. But we believe in other things, even angels. Right? We tell people angels are real, so I'll prove it. We can't, because they're here. It's not like you grab your little lamp, you rub on it, the genie comes out. This doesn't work that way, you see. But we have these things we believe in that others don't believe in, they're special about. The things that make them special, and we can't minimize the importance of those things. That we have to take proud of who we are, what we are. And it also includes our morality as well. Because we have a certain type of sexual morality, right? Doesn't mean that I consider a person who has a different type of sexual morality, that I say, so you're not to be a human. No, you're still a human being. Right? I just don't agree with your lifestyle. And I believe that is sinful. Right? Say the same thing for heterosexual, extra, sex outside of marriage, whether it be heterosexual, homosexual. Right? It's the same thing for us. We have our own morality. So the same way I tolerate people having sex before marriage and people getting drunk, I tolerate as well people who may be involved with people of the same sex. Right? But I'm accepting it. I can't accept it. Because to accept it would go against my fundamental beliefs. Right? It goes against what I believe Allah, God has taught about. I can't accept it. Right? Yeah. But to have people, again, on the other side, the secular liberalists will say, fundamentally they're saying to Muslims that listen, what you believe doesn't mean anything. Muslim. All that matters is what we do. What we believe. That's all that matters, what we believe. What you believe means nothing. So unless you accept this, right, then you're homophobic, and you're this or that. Some people asked me to say to me the other day, because I wrote an article some years ago about Islam and sexuality, and this one of our female scholars, she called me a few days ago about this, and she said that, well, some people read your article and find it to be homophobic, probably feel that you're homophobic, and I was like, I don't see how they could, because you actually read all this humanity, you see how it's a very compassionate approach to this issue. Now, on top of that, I mean, what a lot of people don't know is that, like, I have a master's in ethics and social theory, so when I actually did that master's, I studied at a school which was predominantly gay. So the predominantly gay people that I studied with, when I did my PhD, one of the people, the Homework Committee, the woman Homework Committee, she's a lesbian, she's listed as one of our committee members. So I was like, well, I have family members who gay, my aunt, my cousin, bisexual. It's like, how am I homophobic? So it's to understand that I don't have any fear, any irrational fear of that. I think really I'm going to make something about that, and just making the point. Just making the point that we have things as Muslims that we have to place value on. We have to value our own tradition as well. And though we can tolerate other people's perspectives, that we can never accept sin. Sin is still sin for us. Right? Page 3, according to Imam Bukhari al-Makki, the nourishment of the heart. The beauty of this verse, well, the verse emphasized, and then read the verse. The verse, so this is the verse which is the foundation of this actual book, the title of the book, and Surah 13, verse 11. Where Allah says, Allah does not change the people until they change what is in themselves. There's a similar verse to this in Surah 9, where Allah says, and that is because Allah does not alter a blessing that He has placed to give into a people or conferred upon a people until they change what with themselves. So in both directions, sometimes we do things within ourselves, our hearts change, and then Allah changes our physical conditions. So again, metaphysical causation, right? Something with our heart changes, and that leads to our physical condition changing, right? From bad to good, but sometimes from good to bad. So both things occur. So if we want things to get better, in the physical material world, oftentimes we have to change what is within ourselves, change our thinking to begin with, change what we think about issues. But also is to pursue virtue, And I would even venture to say that as a Muslim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges the Muslim differently than He judges the non-Muslim. And that the very fact that we carry the title Muslim, which / believer, places an enormous responsibility on our shoulders. It's as if that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not allow us to be so immersed in materialism, right, that we can make this our agenda. Allah will not can claim Iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He won't allow us to be your jannah. He just won't allow us, as long as you call yourself a Muslim. If you call yourself, if you leave Islam as one thing different, you say, all right, this is your jannah, this is your paradise. But if you're a believer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bring tests upon you. And so Allah, alhamdulillah, blessed with Muslim is a great wealth. We have property, and alhamdulillah, in general, safety when it comes to our children. But what happens? Allah will bring tests. You bring to our presence. We thought we were very small, even if we are back in our home countries. We came to America, or we were in a different city. Now we're just new city. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring tests to you. So as long as you are claiming Iman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He will bring test to you. And how much more time do I have? Was time up?
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Yeah. No, I mean, again, I know you said that tomorrow we have probably more Q&A tomorrow, but at times I always feel completely comfortable to speak for such a long time and not allow people an opportunity to at least ask a couple of questions. I'm hopeful that perhaps, maybe we just pause here and maybe people may want to get some clarifications on some things that are stated. And because in general, I don't like to talk for more than an hour at a time, unless it's like if I'm telling a story, people can last longer than an hour if I'm telling like a story, history, especially something miraculous, right? Aqidah, Sirah, people can last longer than an hour for those type of teachings, but I think something like this, it requires a break. So I did want to at least allow for a few people to get an opportunity to ask some questions that you have, and we can continue. Thank you. Okay, 2 minutes, guys. 2 minutes, not 10. I thought 10. Is it 2? Huh?
After 8 o'clock, we have 15 minutes for the show.
Oh, so 15 minutes until you show. Right, so we have 15 minutes. So can I have a break there? Is it about time to break? I kind of saw a little fatigue on a couple of faces, so I just wanted to get it. It's not overkill. Right, so are there any questions? Comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you talked about how adultery can take several shapes, how self-worship involving your lusts can be considered shirk. Can you maybe elaborate on that a bit? How your lusts can form shirk?
Right, so the question relates to the comments about how your lust can be a form of idolatry or how a person can actually worship their lust. There is worship which is in the form of actually bowing down or prostrating to something. So we prostrate to bow to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there's also another type of worship which takes the form of obeying someone other than God. Obeying someone other than God. So for instance, in Surah Al-Baqarah, what we call Ayatul Kursi, Allah says, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدِ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى انْفِصَامَهَا. That whoever rejects faith in the false God and believes in Allah, then that person is taking hold of the strongest handle, which is not break. When we look at the backstory of this verse and it's revealed, we find that no, actually, it wasn't this particular verse, it's a different verse. ألم تر إلى الذين يزعمون أنهم آمنوا بما أنزل إليكم وما أنزل من قبلكم يريدون أن يتحاكموا إلى الطاغوت وقد أمروا أن يكفروا به. That have you not seen those who claim they believe in what was revealed to you and before you, seeking or desiring to the judgment of the false God when they have been ordered to reject faith in him. Right, so the backstory of that verse is that there was a man who was a Muslim in the midst of the Prophet who had a dispute with the Jewish man. The Jewish man said, okay, well, let's go to Muhammad and let's resolve this issue. The man who was a hypocrite, he says, no, let's go to Ka'b ibn Ashraf, who was the Jewish leader, to do so. So, Ka'b ibn Ashraf, the Jewish leader, would actually refer to the Quran as a Taghut, as a false god. Right? And so the false god, in the sense that his judgment was sought after. When we see after the judgment of other than the Prophet or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that itself is looked upon as a type of idolatry, a type of worship. Or similar to this, the very fact that when the verse revealed that about the children of Israel, about the Jews and Christians, that they had taken their priests and rabbis as gods, as lords other than Allah. And one of the Sahaba came to them who was a Christian in the past and said, no, we didn't do that. And the Prophet said to him, didn't you, when they made what is lawful, unlawful, didn't we follow? And then when they make what is, vice versa, So it said that is the worship of them. That's what's meant by the worship of them. So your lust as well, right? If Allah tells you to utilize the members of your body in a certain way, and you decide to act on your lust, to restrain that appetite, and you say, no, I'm going to obey the appetite, right? So this is what's meant by taking the appetite as a God, right? So that's fundamentally how it works. Any other questions?
Perhaps you're just riding, kind of late, tired.
Inshallah, Brother Zuhair, if you can tell about tomorrow.
Sisters, no, nothing?
So tomorrow we're going to be convening for our class 2 at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. sharp. We're going to start our second class. It's going to go until noon, and then there's going to be lunch from noon to 1. Many of you have purchased lunches for $5 each. Those lunches will be provided. If you want to buy lunch, you can do that online at utahmuslims.com or bring your own lunch. So we're going to break for lunch from 12 to 1, and then we're going to have our third class from 1 to 2 p.m. And then we'll have a night session just like this afternoon. So that's the agenda for tomorrow. You can still buy the book. It's for $10. This is because of the discount that Sister Diana is giving us through Zaytuna. Otherwise, it's $18 on Prime, Amazon Prime. So if you would like to buy a book, you can still do so. We have many copies outside for tomorrow. And thank you so very much. Assalamu alaikum.
So